Georgi Dimitrov, welcome to Eden. You have the opening keynote session tomorrow, and the theme of our conference, of course, is Diversity Matters. Your theme is based around education and innovation. Could you tell me, please, how those two connect together?
Yes, well, I think that one of the things I would say that you need for any kind of innovation is a mix of things. Mm-hmm. So by pure, let's say, linear type of thinking, probably you can succeed, but more often if you get ideas from others and you collaborate with them more openly, that's where diversity plays a role. And this is how innovation often happens. Let's say the type of work that we support is very often the case. And I think that when you talk about innovation and education, it's really important to, first of all, reflect the diversity in society, because society is obviously very diverse nowadays and getting more and more so in Europe, but also to be open for different type of thinking and for different ideas and to experiment by not stressing too much the fact that we're innovating, I would say. I think in fact, it's just about improving what we do. Sometimes if you're not comfortable with what you have been doing for a while, opting for a change and also daring to actually do things in a different way. And I think that the innovation is more of a buzzword, or let's say a keyword to put all these things rather than the end in itself. And so I would not see a big problem with traditional thinking if it works and if it has good results. And by all means, we have good systems in a lot of schools and universities. But sometimes we do have also less good results, and they are very diverse as well in different parts of Europe. Part of my job is also to look at the whole of Europe. Here, sometimes the, let's say, less optimal or less good results are due to maybe the resistance to improve, resistance to some ideas that actually work, etc. So
I think the word resistance is important here, because I think in my own experience, and I guess many other educators would say the same thing, that people are resistant to change or the perception of change. So one of the things we've noticed in research in the past is that teachers like to have ownership of that change. How do we give teachers ownership when it is in fact probably being imposed from above?
Yes. If I look at, let's say, systems that would tell us something about successful change, if we put it that way, one of the factors might be actually autonomy. Right. So if you give the teacher more autonomy to decide, then that automatically decreases, if you like, the resistance. So I think that in some systems which have also the framework for this type of autonomy, this works quite well. The difficulties come when we have more, if you like, top-down systems where things have happened in a centralized way for too long, or for inertia, for reasons of just doing this for way too long and not changing it. There, I don't think I have any magical, if you like, formula. I think sometimes it's really also about the generational change. When new teachers, for instance, I have some insights in some specific systems across Europe where you could really, see that part of the innovation or of the modern thinking comes when you get also new teachers on board. When you get, for instance, male teachers, because in some systems we have, let's say, a very dominant female teacher structure, which is great, but in terms of diversity, it might not be optimal. So, if you bring these different elements together, this may also decrease slightly the resistance. However, I don't have, as I said, a magical
no magic wand.
No.
I think one of the big agenda of the European Union right now is this kind of the digital single market and the transformation that results from that. How are we going to achieve transformation across the whole of society, or do you think that's not possible to do?
I would not see us in the Commission as let's say, promoting the change that far into the society. I think that with the digital single market, what we have achieved is to put the initial idea of the single market, which is a very powerful, very simple idea, which speaks to majority of people through everyday transactions, who fly, who go through borders. We've managed to put this idea and to relate to the fact that today we go through this digital transformation, which requires the same type of ambition in thinking. For us in the education field, this is a very important piece of work because, as you may know, in the European Union, the Commission does not have any legal competence in terms of education. So for us, what is very important is that we, first of all, see how the digital transformation affects the market, of course, also the society, let's say the government, and this has some implications on education. So what we try is to, if you like, see where the train is going and develop some evidence on what this means for education systems, and then actually do our job, which is to support member states in their education systems. This is actually our mandate, and we are also legally obliged to stay there. So we cannot come up with curricula or things like that, or regulations for teachers or anything like that. So for us, it's an inspiration. It's a keyword because we hope that people will say, okay, digital single market, I understand that this is the sort of the new journey. And obviously, in this digital single market, there is a lot of stuff for education. I mean, we have even things which, like copyright, which has direct implication on the way you use resources.
And maybe intellectual property as well.
Intellectual property.
Which is allied.
Yes, exactly. So we do have, let's say, some work ongoing there, but our primary work still is probably led by our biggest program, which is the Erasmus program for mobility, which, by the way, in this week celebrates 30th anniversary.
Happy birthday!
Thank you very much. I wish I was 30, but thank you. I accept the.
Well, you'll be 30 one day.
Well, that's thank you as well. No, but mobility and cooperation is what we primarily support. But we're looking into the let's say the issue of what the digital transformation actually means in the long term for education.
Do you consider that in a place the size of Europe and with its technical sophistication, do you consider that there is still a digital divide amongst the population?
Yes, I do think so. And I think that partly the divide is not purely technical in terms of nature. So if we would have maybe discussed the digital divide a while ago in terms of access to, let's say, web, or maybe access to personal computers, then I would say that today the divide is possibly more along socio-economic lines.
Right.
And I would see the some of the, if you like, the symptoms of such a divide in the fact that, for instance, a very large part of the population, including young people. I have also a daughter. For instance, spend a lot of time with consuming, for instance, digital media, digital technology, whereas maybe the creative use of it is really not sufficiently developed. And I think that we see more and more the effects of maybe uncritical reliance also on digital, on media. I would just name here fake news and all these things. I would see that this digital divide also goes along the lines of critical thinking, of media literacy.
Perhaps I could ask you a question about the future of education. What parts of technology-supported education will replace traditional education?
If I think of the education process in a sort of macro way, I would imagine that a lot of the administrative process will be replaced. So back offices in universities and possibly also to a lesser extent in schools administrative workflow, all these type of things. You actually see some signs of this in the Open University announcement of the other day, I think. I am less sure about what the long-term implication would be in the let's say in the replacement of teaching. I am a student myself in the Open University,
right.
so I do miss the personal element myself. So I'm talking now more about personal experience. I think that for specific socioeconomic groups, for specific vocations, and for specific professions, maybe some of the teaching and some of the, if you like, physical presence will be automated for sure. A big chunk of the education process is, of course, as we know, a socialization process. And this will not, let's say, be replaced anytime soon. If anything, you see even in indications in countries like the US, on the contrary, that a lot of things are added, if you like, to the education campus. So I think that the more technical, it's not surprising. I mean, the more technical the part is, the more likely it is going to be replaced. Possibly some of the assessment might get into the way of artificial intelligence, especially if learning outcomes are very, very clearly and well defined. So I do think that there are specific algorithms can play a very strong role. I don't think that we'll ever get a robot to teach children. It would not be a very good idea, I think. So that would be my take on it.
Georgi, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you very much for this interview. I enjoyed it a lot.